After relaxing on the beach for 4 days, I was excited to finally learn something about this city that I had been staring at from across the bay. Where I expected to find a centuries-old party that had never stopped, I instead found myself shocked and confused at what I had never learned in school. The history of this great city threw a live grenade into my skull, shut the door, and let the explosives rearrange everything I thought I knew about this place. What was once the greatest city in all of the New World is stained by war, slavery, torture, and colonization. This trip was a lesson in how history has a way of forcing you to let go and re-examine everything you have ever been told. The Spanish Inquisition. Death and torture sanctioned by the Catholic Church and carried out by the Spanish Crown. For centuries, countless Jews, Muslims, heretics, and witches were tortured and murdered in the name of God. Located inside the historic walled city, the Palace of the Inquisition was finished in 1770 to act as the third office of the Inquisition in the Americas. The building now houses a museum detailing the horrors of this period in Colombia's colonial history. Inside, you can walk the halls of a magnificent Baroque Spanish colonial building and see various artifacts from this period of time. It is well worth the 20,000 peso entrance fee, about $6 US, and I highly recommend hiring a guide to give you some context about what you are witnessing. I promise you, Cartagena will never look the same after hearing this story. Beginning in the 12th century, the Inquisition was created by the Catholic Church to rid the territories under its control of heretics. People were accused in the Palace of the Inquisition, and if they did not confess, a confession was usually tortured out of them. If the accused withstood the torture and still did not confess, they were usually burned at the stake. The Inquisition first arrived in the Americas following Spain's colonization of Mexico. It quickly spread to the other colonies, and this office in Cartagena was established in line with the same doctrine. Oftentimes, just witnessing a victim being tortured was enough to elicit a confession. Some of the gruesome methods used were stretching the victim on the rack, suspending them in the air by their hands, and subsequently adding weights to their feet, the old-fashioned thumb screw, and strapping a spiked collar around their neck. The executioner's gallows and the guillotine are still on display in the courtyard of this dark palace. Although the Inquisition, as described here, is no longer stretching people on the rack and burning women at the stake, I was shocked to find out that the organization still exists in the Catholic Church today, albeit under a different name and operating in a much more subtle manner. As dark as the Spanish Inquisition was, there's plenty of history in Cartagena that makes this city proud. The city's primary tourist attraction, Castillo de San Felipe, is the site of some of Cartagena's most proud moments in history. The Guardian of Cartagena. It sits on one of the city's only hills overlooking the bay, watching, waiting, seemingly saying, "Come at me, bro. Let's see what you got." The days of pirates the likes of Francis Drake and John Hawkins long since passed. But the glory of this castle lives on. The stories being told daily keep alive those memories that so long ago helped define what this city is today. Castillo de San Felipe is the largest colonial Spanish fort ever built. Its monumental size speaks to the importance of this city in the New World. Construction began in 1657, and its final form, which we see today, was completed in 1763. Only falling once to a French privateer in its very early history, the castle was subsequently upgraded and never fell into enemy hands again. It played a crucial role in the War of Jenkins' Ear, in which the British attempted to sack Cartagena because a merchant's ear was cut off in an exchange with the Spanish Coast Guard 8 years prior. Despite the silly pretext for this war, many thousands of lives were lost. But the Castillo de San Felipe stood strong against the British advance and eventually repelled them. Cartagena remained firmly in Spanish hands. The fortress, along with the historic walled city, is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has stood witness to the chaotic, often reckless mood swings of the last 364 years. The site of many battles and raids on the city, like an immovable mountain, its solid stone structure will continue to play a notable role in Cartagena's story for many more years. A very influential person in the creation of Colombia lived here in the city of Cartagena. His house has been well preserved by the Colombian government and now serves as a museum commemorating his life. The bust of Rafael Nunez greets you as you walk in through the front door. His confident yet relaxed grandfatherly appearance leaves you with no doubt that he has seen it all. Elected president 4 times to 2 different countries, he is largely hailed as the father of modern-day Colombia. His house sits just outside the historic walled city. It is a dignified manner that blends in well with the surrounding neighborhood. It's not the gaudy, palatial affair that one pictures a world leader to call home. A simple, 19th century style, 2-story home with a courtyard in the middle, it still retains much of the charm it had when he called it home. Rafael Nunez was first elected president to the United States of Colombia in 1880. He served 2 terms separated by 2 years before being elected president for the 3rd time in 1886. It was this 3rd time in office that he ratified a new constitution, centralized the government, and changed the name of the country to the Republic of Colombia. This new constitution was in effect for more than 100 years until 1991. It was this 3rd term in office that defined the nation and put an end to the majority of the fighting between the conservatives and the liberals. He was immediately elected president again to serve a 4th term, but he never took office. Sadly, with his health deteriorating, he returned to Cartagena and eventually passed away. His vice president took over the presidential duties, but his legacy lives on today, as much of what he built is modern-day Colombia. Part of that legacy was the establishment of the modern-day Colombian Navy. With Cartagena being a maritime powerhouse for centuries, you can be sure that the city celebrates its proud naval history. Located in a beautiful colonial building in the historic district of Cartagena, The Naval Museum offers insight into the storied history of naval operations in the Caribbean. Fantasies about pirates and massive sea battles can be realized from exhibit to exhibit. The artifacts on display transport you back to a time when every seagoing vessel had a story to tell, and adventure was a way of life. The museum starts off in the beginning, before large warships prowled the coast and battalions of soldiers invaded mainland South America, telling the stories of the indigenous population and their affinity with the sea. The focus then shifts to the conquistadors that came ashore and claimed South America for the Spanish crown. There are a number of dioramas and informational stops that explain the stories of this time in Cartagena's history. Embedded in the history of the colonial period are the tales of numerous pirate attacks on the city of Cartagena. Because Cartagena was a bastion of commerce for colonial Spain, the massive amounts of gold, silver, and emeralds moving through this city proved to be a tempting target for opportunistic pirates. As you move further through the museum, the narrative shifts away from the colonial era and starts to focus more on the modern-day stories of the Colombian Navy. There are numerous fascinating stories and exhibits that will change your perspective on the role Colombia has played in the modern-day global political landscape. From standing on the bridge of a modern-day warship to strapping yourself into a World War II-era anti-aircraft gun, there's a vast number of exhibits that highlight the pride of the Colombian Navy and the battles and traditions that ultimately gave the city of Cartagena its magic.